Welcome. It's people rising. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
So people are rising.
We're standing up any way we can. Some of us a little slower than others.
How are you guys doing?
Man, it's been a week and I am ready for this conversation. I intend to be very vulnerable today, y'all. We're with family, right? So
We
I'm
are.
definitely looking forward to having this conversation about being burned out and talking through some things. But I'm excited about just being able to connect and talk with you guys again.
Likewise.
Peter is. Have you gone to like the chair before? This is your first time.
What do you mean?
I mean, this is the first time I recall you going to like a chair like that, as opposed to like sitting at a desk or something.
Well, my favorite. So I work at a co-working spot, and my favorite location to do this is booked. Someone got to it before me, so
Okay.
I'm in my second favorite. But yeah, so
Well, you
the
have a very
background's pretty much the
authoritative-
same.
It's a very authoritative stance that he took with the chair. Hey, Dumping Ground, welcome to the podcast. Sorry, I got to shout out. There's a lot of folks who are connecting in other places. So hi, everybody.
That's wonderful. Fantastic. Oh, look at that. And you did your thing from Facebook.
Listen, there are peeps watching, okay, from different channels. So this is really important. But I tell people every week, just take an hour, use it for your professional or your personal development time, and come and listen to actual thought leaders.
Well, that's thank you.
Yeah. Shelley's big with the generosity in my case. It's both thought and leader. That's
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. So we'll just do some quick intros. Shelley, you want to start?
Yeah. So hi, everybody. Again, I'm Shelley Jeffcoat. I own a brand called Pi, Proud, Inspired, Empowered. I'm a brand expert. I'm a podcaster. I'm an author. I'm a mama. I'm a friend and a photosome. But more importantly, I'm a member of this awesome People Rising community. And I'm just excited to be here again.
So I just have to say, Shelley, when you said I'm a photosome, I realized like that's a list I don't want to be on. Like,
no, you don't want to be on that list.
That's so funny.
So I am Peter Laughter, and I'm a storyteller and a dad and a husband and an all-around troublemaker. And I'm the founder of True Bearing, and we believe that rock star employees are looking for meaning. And so we help companies tell stories that allow them to connect with those who matter most.
That is awesome. And my name is Linwood Ross. I'm the founder and CEO of Accelerate Inc. Thank you. Shelley gave me a nice little, I appreciate that. So welcome. Again, welcome. Please say hello from those who are far and wide. We're glad to have you join us. Today we are talking about burnout. It's an important topic.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, last night I gave a presentation to some organizational design professionals, primarily from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And part of what I was talking, a very small part, but part of what I was talking about was burnout. What I think burnout, what I think is a symptom of, and I'm sure we're going to get into that today. I know, Shelley, you have some strong feelings. Do you want to start?
I have strong feelings. I do. You know, when I so let me just again. I was saying before we started this that I do plan on being very vulnerable because I know this is a topic that I have another circle of women, friends, and leaders that we talk about this all the time. And so special shout out to the Dumping Ground, which also is a podcast that goes out to small business owners within the Atlanta community as well. So I know that there's going to be women watching this that this will resonate. But when I first read, there was an article that you shared. And when I first read that article, I think what really struck me was some of the way that they were breaking down there was a researcher, Christina Maslach, I might be just destroying her name, and she was talking about in the article burnout resulting from stress, and I pointed out some of the areas that in my situation, stress being caused by mismatch between jobs and individual contributors, or sometimes it's because there is no resource available, so you end up doing more than
Right.
waiting for that gap to be filled. And one thing we've learned is if you've done the more than for a very long time, the organization has no reason to fill that gap for you. And then we were also talking about being burned out as it related to our culture. This was a really tough one to swallow, because what we found within my group of friends, so this is anecdotal evidence for you all who are listening, especially for Black women or African American women, is we put a lot more. There's already stress that's being placed on us, but we also put a lot of stress on ourselves, because we do feel like we have to overproduce in order to be accepted as not even equal, y'all, like 90%. So we end up going, a lot of times above and beyond when we have those situations where there is no help coming, or having to prove ourselves. And that leads to burnout, because it's not something that's sustainable. Working around the clock is not sustainable. Going a week without taking a lunch break, and I'm saying this as someone who does this, is not sustainable. So when I think about burnout, I'm also thinking about what are the things that I can control, because it's a part of a behavior, my behavior, and how I'm responding to this environment or the situation that I'm in, to make sure that I am not burning out. And then the other thing, so listen, I gave an earful to Lenwood early this week. I was like, this is so on time, because I want to encourage women, whether you look like me or not, to really think about how you are going to take an approach to resolving burnout. There are systematic things that are outside of our scope we can't fix within an organization, right? It's just the way it is. But there are things that we can do in ourselves to kind of manage it, so you don't get to that absolute burnout space. And it's not just it's not about self-care, meaning like you need a spa run or Target run or an Amazon, right? It is not a retail therapy. Yeah. I mean, and I'm, just confessing, but there are things that you can do. So I'd love to, touch on that, and also get from a male perspective, how do you manage burnout, and how do you respond to those? Do you have those same types of angst of trying to kind of overexceed? Do you feel like you guys have that same kind of pressure?
That was jam packed.
That was a lot. Yeah.
Listen, this is my therapy hour.
And some of the issues that you talked about, they're incredibly problematic, right? I think one of the biggest issues that you raised was this issue of bias.
Yes.
In the workplace, and your response to that bias.
That's right.
And that is a very challenging situation. That's one that I have been in. It's one that, because how do you win?
Right.
You can't win in a situation where someone has a bias about you. Now, I don't want to make this about me, but I was in a situation where I knew that the person that I reported to had a bias about people of my complexion. I knew that.
Yeah.
Okay. And that meant that she had a perception about me, or not really me, but my people.
Yeah. Y'all.
Which is another, but and it's a pretty common stereotype, right? That you hear, which is, I'm going to go ahead and say it on People Rising, is that, that Black people are lazy.
Yeah.
So
did she say that?
No, that's a common perception.
It's the misconception.
That's a common.
It's the stigma.
among
Oh, I
races.
know it's a misconception.
Yeah. You're like, hold on now.
Yeah.
You know, so her answer to any challenge that I might be having was, well, he's lazy.
Yeah.
Because he's Black.
Or just
Black
figure it
people
out.
are lazy.
Just figure
Right?
it out. Or just help them, Kelly. Just help them.
You know, so, you know, those kinds of challenges are, you know, they are in many ways debilitating, right? I just, you know, I never really attributed it to burnout, but she was contributing to burnout because she was cutting my staff and expecting me to get all the work done. And the fact that I wasn't getting the work done didn't have to do with her cutting my staff. It had to do with me, you know, being from a particular group.
Yeah.
And people across the company are like, she's cutting his, like, how is he supposed to get all the work done? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Because what's happening is in legal department, I was in the legal department, you know, legal department is a centralized function. So people all over the organization are sending stuff into the legal department. And so what they're seeing is legal staff getting cut and their projects taking longer and longer and longer to get done. Simple as that. And yeah, so anyway, I've gone a little bit far afield, but my point simply is that is a situation that is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
You are just, it's a no-win.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we probably could take the next 6 episodes and talk about racism in the workplace and still not begin to touch the surface, and not to really talk about burnout all that much. But I think, but it is a problem that it is killing us, and not just racism, but male-dominated thought pattern, and from both perspectives. Right? My racism is exhausting, right? In so many ways. Like, one, I have to distrust you all because of the way you look. And that's actually really tiring, and then when I am confronted with the very obvious examples of my racism, then I have to defend itself because being racist is bad, right? Yeah, and all of that is really exhausting, right? Like, it's if I don't know as a white dude that I've been given things that I haven't really deserved or earned, right? Yeah, and I have been. Yeah, big shocker. But then the receipt of those things, on some level, if I'm alive and paying attention, I know that truth. But if I don't acknowledge it and work to overcome it, then I have to defend those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it's an exhaustion. And then plus just this whole male-dominated world, I have to view people like Glenwood as a threat constantly, and I have to try and overcome, and like it's a mess. Yeah.
But the thing about burnout today is it is, not to minimize the type of burnout that we're talking about, it is widespread.
Yes.
You look at the statistics around the world.
Yes.
You have something that is geographically just, across every geography, every culture and management practice. We're seeing very high burnout numbers. And there's very important reasons for that. So I think that this is a topic, it has lots of causes. And so I do think it's important to talk about those causes, because they do tell us a little bit about how we can solve them, right?
Before we talk about causes, I'm just wondering, should we talk about the effects? Yeah. Oh, there we go. Sam just asked a question about this. I was clairvoyant. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great comment. It's a great point. And I just think I don't, we're definitely not dealing with it in a way that is effective, right? So one of the articles that I shared this week talked about how the antidote to burnout isn't like mental health support, right? Even though that's important, it's not because people are crazy that they're burning out. I shouldn't have said it that way. But you understand what I'm saying? People aren't burning out because they're having mental health issues. They're having mental health issues because they're burned out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So how does it impact things like productivity and how are companies shooting themselves in the foot because of burnout? Do we have any sense of that? I'm quickly trying to pull up some stats on that.
Here's what I think. We're going through this transition. I talk about this all the time, so here I go, getting up on my soapbox. Which we're experiencing this transition from industrial age to digital age, and as we've been going through that transition, the thing that most organizations have focused on is the technology part of the transition. So the systems required to move from the industrial age to the digital age. The thing that they haven't focused on very much is the people part of that transition from the industrial age to the digital age. And so what's happened is we're experiencing an avalanche of information, communication that is coming towards us, and the management practices, the rituals, the ways in which we work don't support those things. They're meant for a different age. So we need new management practices, new rituals that are more consistent with the digital age. And the two big ones that I talk about the most are hierarchical command and control process, right? That way of operating is ill-suited for the digital age. The digital age requires a different kind of operating system, and that operating system is collaboration. It's more suited to networks, right? So anyway, that's kind of like my nutshell, what's going on that is causing what feels like Michael Arena had an article out last week talking about the activity avalanche, was what he called it. People going back to the office.
Yes.
They get back to the office and it's like literally like, just projects, all these different initiatives starting, all this meetings. It's because when you're all kinds of stuff. Because I said, when you're out of the office, if you're not like on someone's team, you're kind of out of sight, out of mind. But when everyone's back in the office, it's so easy to pull somebody into something when you see them. And, those kinds of things happen. And what you get is chaos.
Yeah. And which didn't work. That didn't work before. And there's some people who they can respond to. I was never the person where you stop by my desk for a question. I literally, my brain doesn't work that way. Like, send it to me so I can think about it and I'll, give a good response. And I love that example that you shared about people going in, because now that we've shifted from hybrid and we still have a lot of companies who are trying to convince employers that being on site means culture. And again, it doesn't. Keep saying it doesn't. That rigor and the amount of things to do that are outside of your job, even, right? I tell people all the time, like, listen, you gotta be able to prioritize the things that you pay me for.
Well, but you mentioned something else too that is the whole coming to the desk, and that was something. So my last company, Spark Trade Group, I had an investor who owned 55% of the company, and I remember we were working out of his incubator space, which used to be my old company, another company that I sold to the same guy. And it was a Friday, and someone who worked for one of his other companies, his daughter had a fair at their school and invited everybody. And so and me and my partner, we come back. We're the only ones who come back early from that fair. And lo and behold, our investor's there. And he's sitting in his incubator space wondering where the heck all his employees are. And he calls me into his office, into the conference room. He said, I want to chat for you a second, and closes the door behind me. And it's really funny. As I see people walking in, I could see like, uh-oh, that's not good. But my heart started beating so fast, and and it was nothing to worry about. But when he closed that door, I was like, am I going to get fired? Now, here's the thing. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 25 years old. I can't even count the number of times I've said to people, hey, come on in, I want to chat with you about something. And had no idea that probably in 90% of those instances that they were like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. And had no clue. It dramatically changed my my activity, before then, when I would, say like, hey, let's chat about this. Nothing to worry about, but I want to get some, like being very, very clear about that. But I think that, I think getting back to, what you were talking about is there are stressors in the office that come from our inability to empathize and understand that we're not even aware of, that are really significant. And Sam, just to get back to you. So one, from the healthcare system, burnout is causing up to $190 million a year in excess healthcare costs.
Oh my God.
Billion. Sorry,
I was going to say
190 billion a year.
It's not that big of.
It's like, I can afford that.
That'd be a bigger number than that.
190 billion. 60% of corporate leaders report at the end of the day that they've got nothing left, which is a big sign of and 44% of leaders who feel burnout are expecting to change positions, and 26% are expected to leave within the next year. So, I mean, I think and we're not even talking about the loss of productivity and the loss of creativity, but just the high. And the other number that I think of is something like 32% of people who leave their jobs directly attribute their quitting to the culture of the organization they're leaving. So it's, I mean, and you can't tell me that is not impacted by people's expectations and how they're treated, things that cause burnout. So
that's great insight. And it's impacting the C-suite. I don't want to make it seem like we're talking about the individual contributor versus like they're doing something that is impacting everybody else. It's actually affecting everyone.
Well, I mean, John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods and the author of the book Conscious Capitalism, who's complaining just last year that employees are lazy.
Right.
Like, no, I mean, you wrote the book on conscious capitalism. What expectations do you have for them? What reasons are you providing, your employees to come to work for you? What higher purpose? And that was another statistic that I saw, that 52% of Americans since the pandemic are questioning the purpose of their work. And I think that's a huge contributor to burnout. Is we're doing work that we're doing it to make a paycheck, but I mean, doing work you don't like or are not connected to is incredibly stressful. It takes so much added effort just to get yourself to do it. From that place.
That's a great point. I was thinking about from an HR. Thank you, Julie. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name. Thank you for that. And I do want to, I love that quote that came from the dumping ground. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm.
Ooh.
I'm borrowing that.
Well, that is a very interesting point, because you mentioned something that I certainly would have done, but I saw someone operate in a different way. And this is what I'm talking about, where you're hired to do a certain thing, and then someone comes to you, they loaded you up,
Yeah.
you know, and you do it.
Yeah.
You don't ask for a pay increase, you know, you know, but the reason why I bring it up is because I actually saw someone do something different and I was blown away. He said, "Oh, you want me to do X? I'm happy to do it. You'll just have to increase my salary."
Wow.
Boom. That's it.
Well,
And they did it.
that was the thing in your post that I was really interested in. And one is that a big causer of stress,
Mhm.
is expecting people to do
Yes.
work with insufficient resources.
Yes.
And that was a fascinating one for me because I've been an entrepreneur all my career. It's just all about, putting things together with duct tape, wire, and spit. Yeah, but my expectations of myself are also tied up with that, and the expectations that I put on others are tied up with that. Yeah, how is it? Yeah, and it's a question of what do I want to do
Right.
rather than asking what is it that we can do with what we have. And so that was a big moment for me. And I think how we go about setting goals and targets needs to really shift and have that be more conversational.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. It's also kind of to the individual. So I'm not a recovering workaholic. I thought I was recovering, but I'm not. I actually enjoy the spaces that I'm in. I'm all over the place, y'all, and I'm okay with that. Hey, Katina, yes, purpose factor is huge. And so one of the things that I've been really thinking about, for me, I'm a natural problem solver. And I always think about, I do this in my business and I do this in my day job. Y'all know I float in two spaces. So when I'm in the day job, I am thinking about what can I do to impact the business in a positive way. And so I'm not always thinking about like, it's not within my job description. If I know the answer, I'm going to solve the problem because it's for the betterment of the stakeholders, all of the organization. But the truth is, everyone doesn't operate that way. So someone might see that and go, wow, she's doing X with nothing, not understanding that to get to that nothing, y'all, to solve those problems that are outside my scope, sometimes that's weekends that I'm giving up. A lot of times that's nights that I'm giving up to solve, right? But that, when I think about like, what am I, I'm just being very honest. How am I contributing to my own burnout? How am I managing it in this way where, yeah, I'm supporting the organization, I'm helping us to achieve X, right? But I'm also not getting myself to a place. I don't know if you're a creative person, any one of you're on the line and you're a creative person being burned out is it's the worst thing in the world. You can't think of anything, so you end up having like this rough block periods. I'm not going to collaborate with anybody because I'm literally drawing a blank and I need to go off and refresh, to get the brain moving, right? So it takes even time to like kind of restart the engine.
And
Yeah.
and that giving too much, sorry, Linda, but giving two people too much to do greatly
Yes.
diminishes their creativity. I mean, most
Yes.
people will say, "Oh, I have my best ideas in the shower." Well, that's because it's the only time in your day where you
You're
don't have
alone.
information coming at you constantly. I mean, we wake up, oh, look at my phone. It's a
Well,
we have no time to think. Yeah.
that's the digital
That's
part,
the
right? In
digital.
the industrial age, right?
Yeah.
If you weren't by a phone, nobody could reach you.
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about, the mail, it came to your house, right? It wasn't
Once a day.
wherever one time a day. So
Yeah.
we don't have interoffice mail anymore. But I
Yeah.
guess my point is that what management practices have we changed to account for the fact that we're on 24/7?
Yeah.
People can reach you via email, Slack, Teams. It's like that notification, Facebook, right? Social
Yeah.
media,
Yeah.
right? People they're pitching you, right? If you're anyone on social media, you're being pitched, at some point from someone, it's just those are the kinds of things that are contributing to this burnout. But to Sam's question, I didn't think of it when he asked. The McKinsey Global Institute came out with this report in February. It's called Performance Through People, Transforming Human Capital into Competitive Advantage. And they analyzed the human capital practices of some 22,000 companies. 22,000 companies. And this piece they call organizational capital, which is like the practices, the things that companies do. It includes culture, systems to some extent. They looked at different types of what they call organizational capital and how people work. And what they found is that collaborative companies that focus on both human capital and performance perform better financially than all other companies.
Wow.
And even though they might not be using scientific collaboration, okay, they are operating in a way where people are working together.
Wow.
So, Shelley, when you were sharing your story, I'm thinking to myself, Shelley doesn't have to put on a cape and go and try and save her company. Nope. Like, that's not, you know what I mean? And I think there's something, particularly in the United States, this individualistic thing about, that we have to go and we have to do these superhuman feats, superhuman feats.
Yes.
To save the day. It's not necessary. In fact, it's be better if you were working in a group to solve the problem. Because for the most part, the complex problems that we need to solve, they're not problems that one person can solve.
Exactly.
We need a group of people coming together.
Exactly.
That are bringing the resources that are available to them, because you don't know what's available to a group, right? You can't just assume that, a person has certain resources or don't have certain resources. You only know when you come together and you decide, hey, we're going to work to solve this problem. What can you contribute from what you already have? And, I just make that point because you might be and I used to do this all the time.
Yeah.
You might be struggling to do something, to learn to do something so that you can accomplish a task when there's somebody else that you could reach out to who already knows how to do that. You bring them into what you're trying to accomplish so that you can get that thing done faster.
Yeah. I love that. That is there it is from Katina. We have to understand that when we're on our A game in one area, something is lacking in that moment. And I think this hits right to the point of I'm a huge proponent in how can I solve it for myself, because there's some, again, like I said, there's some things that are just systematic and it is what it is. But what can I do to make sure that that I am before I am burned out, before I get to that space? What are some of the checks and balances that I can put in place before I get there? I'd love to hear from the folks
for
in
yourself.
The chat. Yeah, for myself.
Yeah.
What does burnout mean for you? Because that's another thing, Peter, I was thinking about. Maybe what I'm considering burnout isn't the same as somebody else, because I can go longer because I'm a workaholic. I can go a lot longer.
Maybe you think you can go longer.
Or I think I can go longer.
Maybe if you got a little bit more rest, you would produce more instead of struggling.
Right. Yeah.
Right. That was for me.
Yeah.
What I needed was a productivity system.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really struggled with productivity, and I knew it was a problem, or I didn't know it was a problem at first. But once I realized that I'm having a productivity problem, rather than trying to figure it out on my own, I found somebody who had a productivity system, and I learned how to use their system. So, that is the kind of part of that system, by the way, is you need to take time to rejuvenate.
Yes.
Like it is not productive to work much more than 40 hours a week.
That's right.
There's a diminishing return in 41, 42, 43, and so on. You need rejuvenation time.
So, Shelley, for me, the real sign of burnout is an inability to really think. Yeah, and so it comes when I have too much to do, and then what I keep jumping from, and I have ADHD, so this is but I keep jumping from all of the things that I have to do, and an inability to prioritize, which causes more stress and lack of productivity. But that's how I notice.
That's really helpful. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I wanted to share like the three things that I'm not sure why there's an echo now.
We like hearing your voice so much. If we hear it twice,
it's abounding in power. But the three things that have worked for me, shifting out of burnout, or when I get that sense, for me, like what I know I'm burned out when, for me, Peter, when I start hitting those walls, I'm exhausted and I just feel tapped out. So that's the physical response to burnout.
Is that exhaustion or is that burnout?
No. Burnout when like. I'm West Indian. I'm Jamaican. When I'm burned out, I don't even speak. I'm in pure patois. Nobody even understands what I'm saying. I don't even want y'all to understand what I'm saying. That's literally what I'm like. I'm so burned out. I'm literally like, there's nothing coming, and I have to like step away. So the three things that I've done. The first thing is pause. I actually learned this from an executive leadership coach, and he was teaching me about pausing before responding. Because again, like everybody else, I get bombarded with emails and requests and all those things. So just pausing. But what that pause does, even if it's something as simple as a question that's coming to me, gives my brain a little bit of a chance to kind of I don't know, slow down just a little bit before I have to formulate the response. And sometimes I realize that in my pause, I don't have to. I don't even have to respond because my pause was the response. So I've learned to do that. And then the second thing is speaking up, and just basically just sharing, I'm overloaded. I used to listen. I'm Jamaican. I was raised, we're raised as a running joke with us Yachties that we have many, many jobs. And the truth is a lot of us do, because that's how we roll. We like to have
survive.
Multiple revenue streams, and that's how we survive. But the idea of like speaking up, especially within the, as a Black woman, speaking up and saying, I can't do this, or I need help was kind of scary. I really honestly, for a long time thought, and I'm a top performer. Okay. But I really thought they're going to fire me if I say I can't do this. They're going to fire me if I say I'm tired and I can't. Yeah. Right. It was crazy. So I had to get to that point where I just had to say it, and it doesn't impact your credibility if you speak up and you're honest with whoever it is, your line manager, the folks around you. Guys, I got to come back to you in a couple of weeks. I need time to, things like that. Just speaking up. And then the last thing is I have an incredible circle of women of support, and you really need that. You need other people that you can trust, and again, it doesn't have to be on the job; it can be off the job. But people that you can tap into as a reserve to say, I think I'm getting to that point, and for them to say, yeah, you need to take a day off, or you know what I mean, have a really good checkpoint that you can turn. So those are three things I wanted to share about how, for myself, I've been able to kind of come out of that burnout space. But yeah, take a day off, take a break. What were you going to say, Peter?
Well, I was thinking about that added pressure, particularly with Lenwood's story of the manager who inherently thought that Black people were lazy.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that the added pressure of being able to say I've got too much or I'm tired in the context of that conversation must be where it might be very easy for me to say, hey, I'm a little tapped out. I can't take that on. it is clearly not the case.
In my situation, also speaking, going to like Shelley's point about having the power to say no.
Yes.
Like, she's not receiving my no.
That's right.
Because I don't have the power to say no.
That's
to
right.
her because of this extra thing that's going on.
That's powerful. Oh, yes, to the circles of support. Individualism is a myth. It is so true.
It really is. It's horrible.
Can't do this alone. I don't care who you are.
But it reminds me of something that Martin Luther King Jr. said. He says, you're telling people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and they have no boots.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's also a really, really important narrative.
Yeah.
And here's the white guy, keep going back to race. But I think that is, we have this understanding that America is all about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yeah.
And and I'm sure I could find all sorts of great stories where my family pulled itself up by the bootstraps given tremendous resources. And why can't y'all do the same without those resources? There must be something wrong with you. But also the narratives that we've been given, like education will save you. Well,
Right.
guess what? The income gap, the higher the education goes, the racial income gap becomes higher. You got a high school education, great. You're getting pretty much paid the same. White people with people of colors. PhD, y'all are screwed. And so, I mean, but we have this narrative that is inherently it's inherently false. Yeah, that's important to recognize.
That's a great point. Man, I didn't, the more I think about this, the more I realize how, because listen, selfishly, when this topic came up, burnout, I was like, yep, this is going to be my therapy session. But I didn't think about how it how it impacted the way, like D&I, even like you can see the play into D&I, and again, not to take away from amazing program managers who are in the D&I space, but this is not something that you can solve with a well-being event. I'm just like, I'm in HR. Like, how do I know? How are employees reporting back that they're burned out? They're not. They're just taking longer vacations, or their productivity goes down, which I think
or they're leaving.
They're leaving, which is what Sam's question was, right? But this isn't a well-being. It goes to the heart of back to what Peter said about culture. It is seated in the organization, and there are different pockets in the organization. Where I sit in the organization, I am very I'm very aware that there are things that that are afforded to me that maybe somebody in another part of the organization doesn't have. Like, I don't have anybody who's like hunching over my shoulder, checking my work. I don't, right? But there are other people in the organization that might be the environment that they're in, task-driven managers. And if you dare say you're tired, they want to know why you clocked out or something like that, right? So there's some sensitivities around that. And I think that's why it goes back to, what are some of the things that you can do for yourself before you get to X, before you get to that state of burnout? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great point. This book right here, again, it's another. I really had a very difficult time with you. You talked about it, just like you come up and there's something that you need to know or need to learn how to do, and your instinct is, well, I'll learn how to do it, and then I'll do it. That is the wrong approach. Anyone who does that is the wrong approach. I mean, unless you're improving something because it's something that is going to become part of your job, or something that a new skill that you're learning. But like, otherwise, most of the time you want to follow this approach, which is not who, not how.
Wow.
And the idea here is, it's not how am I going to get this done? It's who am I going to contact that can help me get this done?
Right.
Well, and I think that that's an important thing to recognize, Lenwood, is that we are living in a structural context where the result is stress and burnout. And like our friends at Strategic Doing have talked about, this is a problem that is sourced from, there's no silver bullet, there's no one
Right.
thing like, oh, we just need to do this and no more stress. It is a structural problem which is inherently fed by a lack of empathy and
Mm-hmm.
understanding and vision into what is happening for others, and power structures, that where information flows down and not up. Yeah, and it's Lenwood talked about a situation where he's getting work from all across the enterprise and then having resources stripped by someone who doesn't understand the amount of work that's flowing in.
Yeah,
You've mentioned, Shelley, this
Yep,
understanding that you have to produce and accept everything that's given to you.
that's right.
The conversation is always around setting goals. What is it that we want to do, as opposed to what is it that we can do, and an inability to actually have the conversations that are necessary to set those goals, rather than pulling them, doing what the Wall Street analysts have told us that we need to do, or whatever it might be that is setting those expectations. And I think that those are, but ultimately, I think that the the challenge is that we end up with less productivity. I mean, you mentioned, Lenwood, organizations that are really looking at both sides of that equation are able to produce more, and so it is, it is endemic, and but it's baked into the structure,
yeah,
right?
that yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
it's this is take a look at this report that McKinsey did, and I mean it's pretty obvious that
And can you post it to the People Rising group? And for those of you who are
uh
on who
yeah, I
Yeah,
haven't
could,
joined,
yeah, I could post it to the
please
People
do.
Rising group.
yeah.
The so but go ahead if you're not in the People Rising community, just go ahead and go to People Rising community, request to be in, added to the community, and this will be in there. That was a great idea, Peter.
Oh
So, what they say is, you know, organizations that have no set management practices at all are the worst.
yeah.
They perform the worst of all of the companies. And I'm convinced that the reason collaborative organizations are performed better over the last 10 years, the analysis was from 2019 to I'm sorry, from 2010 to 2019. The reason those companies performed well in a collaborative environment is because in a networked world, collaboration works better than command and control.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, just to go back to my song of the importance of purpose, I
Yeah.
think in that collaborative environment, purpose and values become so much more important,
Mhm.
because we cannot regulate all aspects of human behavior,
That's right.
right? And within the idea of, I know why this organizations exists, and I personally connect with that purpose, and I know what are the things that the organization values that
Yes.
allow us as a group and me as an individual to achieve that purpose. And from there, you can create some really, really powerful matrices for making decisions that are in nature collaborative, that need to be challenged by others when, I make a boneheaded decision, which I am known to do from time to time, that someone can say that there is that, and that can cover many things. I was
Yeah.
part of a youth group as a teenager, and we had, I mean, there was a lot of rules, but ultimately they had a framework. You had to ask yourself three questions if you didn't know if something was allowed. Is it good for you? Is it good for the other participants? And is it good for the program? If you couldn't say yes to all those three things, you couldn't do it. And it was a very, very, very simple framework. And I don't think, organizations have provided that level of decision making. So you have just people flying off the wheels, people responding to, their, the person who I report to has just been crappy to me and threw a bunch of stuff at me. So I'm gonna send it
That's
downstream.
right. Yeah.
And at no point in that waterfall of bad activity that might go from the CEO all the way down the line is the ability of someone to say, whoa, this is not consistent with who we are. Yeah, and I think that is something that is incredibly important.
Just to
That it
piggyback
starts
on
with
that,
knowledge.
when we're thinking about values, so one of the things that that we've been able to do where I am is aligning those values to some level of reward and even recognition. So at the end of the year, you're expected to kind of showcase or how the values resonated in the work that you did. And it's hard to do that if you spent all year not being collaborative. You're right, it's hard for you to do that because there's and it's all employees regardless of level, so there is that level of accountability, if you will, but that's not consistent. You know what I mean? It's not consistent, meaning to Katina's point, she shared if you report, I guess, the behavior, if you reported the need or the burnout to your manager and they brush it off and they're not compassionate. We talked about empathy, or even begin to talk about what you can do differently in your job function. There are those pockets that even if you have an incredible organization with wonderful value statements and purpose and it's all aligned, but you have that line manager who is kind of operating in what Linwood talked about, kind of that old frame thinking, which is comes back to how we started, and they're still operating within that space. You still have to come up with your way of how you make things better for yourself where you are, or maybe that's not where you belong. Okay.
Listen to this. I mean, there's a Harvard Business Review article. It just came out. It's research on employees' thoughts about the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging efforts, how they're feeling. This is a ridiculous statistic. 76% of people say their company doesn't care about them.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I'm kind of right. I mean,
Yeah,
we have this organization that really that prioritizes, views people as objects.
Yeah.
And I think that is I'm publishing an article on Monday on this. CEOs and C-suite executives in general are the worst guardians of their company's purpose and values.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not because they're bad people. It's because they can't see the impact of the decisions that are being made, and two, they are the point of the spear on pressures that most people in the organization don't. And the example that one of the examples I bring up is when Benioff, after gutting 10% of Salesforce, talked about the importance of family and how much he believed in family for 2 hours, on a meeting. Meanwhile, this entire company were like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And he didn't see it. But here's the thing: Benioff used to be the majority shareholder of Salesforce.
Wow.
So he had this power to be able to say, we're going to move in a different direction. And now, not the case. So he's got activist investors who are leaning on him to produce certain things and do certain things, which are quite frankly contrary to, I think, what he had originally hoped for and hoped to accomplish with his company, and probably didn't even see the hypocrisy of what he was doing.
Probably.
And I think so that is the importance of having two-way communication and structures that allow people to push back.
I want to share this comment. Oops, is that no? Wait, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The leader who's like, "How are you doing? Are you okay? Okay, great. See you later. Get back to work."
Yeah.
I actually had that same person that I was reporting to.
Yeah.
She asked me something, and it was, like, didn't really care to hear the answer. And then I started talking about my new dog that I had, and finally she said, I don't want to hear about your dog. And then it was to the spreadsheet.
Well, maybe she was a cat person, you know.
Wait, meanwhile, I'm sitting here thinking, because sometimes I don't like to give out details either.
Yeah. So, one thing that I wanted to just mention, Peter,
Mhm.
to something that you said, which is actually very striking, is that in hierarchies, communication is what's valued, like moving
Yes.
information, like, but in networks,
Yes.
shared purpose, shared value is necessary because you need to create alignment. You
That's
need to
right.
create alignment for people working together. So shared purpose, shared values, really important in the digital age. Really important.
Absolutely. So we got like what 5 minutes or 4 minutes left. I'm curious. I know I shared my 3 tips on how to maybe resolve or help folks with burnout. What tips would you guys share with any of the folks that are watching that are feeling burned out? What kind of tips
Yeah,
would you share?
I'm happy to share a few. Number one, I would say this is a general. So one of the things that I think is contributing to burnout is just notification overload. All right, so you should just block your time so that you're not trying to respond to all these notifications throughout the day. So, you pick a few times when you're going to respond to email and the various notifications, and the other times you're going to do focused work. That's really important. Eliminate the digital distractions. Cal Newport has a book called Digital Minimalism, which will help you with that effort. And then you have to really get focused. Okay. Focus is critically important in the digital age because a lot of business models are designed to try to capture your attention. Like that's how they make their money. The more time you spend on the business on the platform, the better.
Yeah.
So you have to be very focused to prevent yourself from getting sucked into a social media void. My recommendation is to get a productivity system. The productivity, I didn't know we're going to do this. The productivity system that I used is a company called Full Focus. And if you give me just a quick second.
See, I'm getting free resource and advice.
Exactly. I'm writing that down quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the book. But it's a company that's called Full Focus. They used to be called the Michael Hyatt and Co. Okay. I use their tools to help me to focus. This book, Free to Focus, is a productivity system.
Awesome.
Okay,
Glenwood,
so that's super important.
I was distracted by a tweet. What were you saying there?
Yeah, this is great. This is really, really great because it really gives you tools for figuring out the tasks that you're passionate about, the things you like to do, the things that are drudgery for you, figuring those things out, but then also giving you, some people have this idea that when you create a task list, like you need to do all the stuff on the task list. No. Part of your strategy is eliminating things off that list, not by doing them, by delegating them, by making the task totally unnecessary. Yeah. Like this company and this book in particular focuses on help. They've changed, like I said, they've changed their name to Full Focus.
Awesome. How about you? We got 1 minute, Peter. How about you?
Well, it's really interesting. I think one of the biggest things that affected my productivity in the last year is personally getting out of the house. And having the ability to close my laptop and not open it again until, has been a huge, huge shift for me.
That's a great point. I'm hybrid, so sometimes I'm in the office, but you're right. Even when I'm at home, I'm very, very organized. I shut my door. I leave my laptop in my office. So boundaries are important. And I love that commute time for me helps me kind of de-stress a little bit. So for y'all who are working from home, you can just go in your garage or walk down the street or something, but get away from that environment for a minute.
Yeah, I would say
just change the environment.
Change the environment.
Peter had made me think of it, which is the other practice that I have personally. I go with God. I try to keep one day where I don't do any work, don't think
Yes.
about work.
Me too. Yeah.
Now you can do it because you are a believer, or you can just do it because you don't want to work.
Do it because you need to, okay?
Whatever reason you need. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
You could do it for whatever reason you have. Hey, everyone. Oh, wait a minute. We got one more comment. I'll go ahead and
Sam.
it's from Sam. One way to address burnout might be to first identify it during the Gimba walk. What's that?
Oh, walking management by walk around, or when you're in the office, walking the space, or which is again kind of just stepping away, shifting the environment.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. Thanks everyone who commented. Katina, Julia,
dumping ground.
Sam. I mean, thank you so much for the dumping ground.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Come back next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.